Claim it because it's not real. We don't know time on time.
I mean, let's see here. We are live on YouTube. So, alrighty. This is exciting. All right, we got 9. Gonna wait a few more minutes. Hey, everybody. Excited to see you. Or read your name virtually, I guess. All right. I am just, can y'all hear me? No, Dar, we can't hear you. You're not supposed to be talking. Hey. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a web it's a webinar. So you're gonna get a chance. You can get a chance to speak at the end, but it's more of like a listening, learning, and really grasping the information. Let's see. Awesome. Okay. I think we're all good. We're live in all the places we should be. And we have a good starting point of attendees. So let's get started. Let me first introduce you guys. Well, introduce everybody to this new series that we're holding. My name is Vanessa, and I'll introduce myself a little bit later. But welcome to 3H Table Talk. And this is a series that we launched this month to get like minds together around a table, an uninterrupted time where we can talk about issues surrounding our theme. And our theme this month is Grow Where You're Planted. Last week, we had a powerhouse of panelists come on and talk to us about Growing Where You're Planted Homestead Edition. And it was so great that you see I did not update my slides. So I'm not perfect. It's okay. I'm not perfect. But this indeed is not Homestead Edition. It is Hustle Edition. And so last week we got together and we talked about growing where you're planted in my world, which is kind of the gardening, homesteading, self-sufficiency world, and, you know, being stuck physically with the weather, with everything that we want to do, and how our dreams are sometimes bigger than our current circumstances. And I want to take that theme into this week to talk about hustling and what that looks like, growing where you're planted when it comes to your hustle, your drive, your career, your personal development. And in that same regard, we have a wonderful group of panelists here. I'm the gardening lady, okay? But these folks, these are the hustlers, okay? These are the people that you want in the room if you're thinking about growing your business, growing professionally, getting out of a rut, starting, finding motivation. These are your people. So again, I'm your host. I'm Vanessa. I'm going to be with you all night. You're stuck with me. And we have our wonderful panelists who came to show out, okay? So here we go. This is February 2021. And like I said, each month we're going to change the theme. I haven't released our theme for next month, but I promise you it's lit and loaded. So some introductions. I'm going to go first just because I'm already talking. Again, my name is Vanessa Pierre. I am a mother of 3 beautiful children. I'm an urban homesteader and gardener. I'm a master gardener, and I'm a food activist and advocate against food insecurity in Montgomery County. So you may see me on your timeline blowing things up, and I'm the organizer and founder of Homestead Hustle and Healing, who is actually putting on this event. So I'm going to hand it over to Jay. Jay, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, so like she said, my name is Jay. I go by Jay Alexandria, and I'm someone who just likes to do business things. I've learned so many things over the years, and I've touched on customer service and tech world and joined it together, and now I just can't get enough of it, if that means anything. But overall, I went to school for psychology, and I went to high school for medical sciences, but overall, I never ended up in that field. I ended up with people, and I wanted to help people in a business sense. And now I'm liking it and I'm learning, and I just want to grow.
Awesome. She said she got it. She said she got addicted, y'all. She said the hustle life just sucked her in, and she was like, "What sleep? Team no sleep? Why? I'm gonna just make these coins."
Sleep
right?
where?
She is there. She is with it. And let's talk to our next panelist. Her name is Kira. Kira, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Kira Bascom, originally born in the beautiful island of Barbados. I just wanted to mention that because I think that we're all going to kind of talk about a little bit about that migration, immigration, the transition to another country at some point during this conversation as it relates to hustling. I am an HR professional during the day, and I currently work at a biotech startup. We are actually we're manufacturing COVID tests. So if your company needs some, hit me up. I am a graduate of Howard University, just like Jay. All my degrees are actually in psychology. I transitioned into HR after I realized that psychiatry wasn't what I wanted to do. And the business of people and the psychology of business interests me, and that's how I ended up where I am today. Besides that, I am the owner of Dialect Apparel, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I am also an entrepreneur. I also do some consulting on the side. So hustling is right up my alley.
So you're saying that it's not just Jamaicans that have 12 jobs, is what you're saying.
No, Asians have jobs.
That's what you're really trying to tell us. Got you. She is definitely busy and a wealth of information, and apparently the plug for COVID tests. So there you go. Added benefit, y'all. You're welcome. Right? Last and my favorite panelist is Andrew. Andrew is another near and dear friend of mine. And go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew White. Pardon the beret, there was an accident. I am a lawyer in DC working at a firm, a really amazing job, I think, outside of the work hours. I went to Georgia State for undergrad. I went to Renmin University in China for my master's, Chinese and international law. And then I came to Georgetown to get my law degree. I'm now 2 years, about to be 2 years out. And yeah, when it comes to hustling, I guess we'll be more specific about starting a YouTube channel while being at a big major law firm and how that works. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm not even going to add to his story. His story is interesting, and he will tell it on his own. But I hope you guys are pumped. I'm super pumped, and I don't want to waste any time getting into it. Let's get into our topics. But first, for the audience, I just want to say we want your questions. We don't want you to hold on to your questions, but we're going to use the question and answer function. It should be at the bottom, I think. I'm pretty sure it should be at the bottom of your Zoom. And if you want to ask a question, but you don't want to lose it, we're going to answer questions at the end. But if you think of something, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A, and we will pick them out one by one. I would grab your coffee or tea, and you're gonna get the reference later when you go follow Andrew on his YouTube channel. But grab something to drink, get comfortable, get cozy, and let's get started. You guys ready?
Ready?
Yeah, look alive. They think they might be a little nervous. I'm intense. Y'all just gonna have to deal with that, okay? All right. So let's get into it. Hustle edition. So our first question for my lovely panelists is, tell us your story. What does hustle mean to you as it relates to the theme, grow where you're planted? We're going to go around and we're going to start with Jay.
All right. So grow where you're planted. For me, that starts with home, and it started with my family, my parents, my mom specifically. I watched her juggle up to 3 jobs at one point, taking me to those jobs with her at nighttime just to get some extra money. And hustle was something I think I always saw. My father, he worked on a ship for 17 years. That means he was away from his family for 17 years. And when he came to Miami, hustle is all he did. So hustle was kind of where I just started with at the beginning too. For me, I know a lot of people think hustle means just money. I just think it means getting what you need to get done. Period. That's it. So I guess as I think about it, I think I just got it from them. I just can't be complacent. I have to get it done. So yeah, that's my little story.
What about you, Kira? What does hustle mean to you? Tell us a little bit about your story. I think you're muted. There you go.
You could be double muted.
Is there a double mute? If there's a double mute, I'm done. I'm done. Like, my tech expertise only goes but this far. Well, nope, can't hear you still. But I can so relate with Jay's story, you know, just coming up from, you know, my mom came here when she was in her early 30s. And she always tells me, you know, all your parents be like, I came here on the banana boat. No, I'm joking. But she, you know, came here over here with nothing, with absolute nothing. And there was never a thought to do anything else but hustle. You come from a survival kind of instinct. And so I was raised around that as well. So I can definitely relate to Jay in that, you know, my mother coming up here, and that kills me sometimes too, because then I think, well, why can't I just eat a cracker for lunch and have one pair of shoes? She was able to do it, you know.
You
but
do
she was able to bring, right? Right.
You do
I tried the cracker thing. It didn't really work out for me. Like, I'm fluffy, and I needed 2 packs of crackers before my soup and salad.
Correct.
I can't hear you, Kira. I'm sorry, but I will go over to Andrew. Tell me a little bit about your story and what hustle means to you.
All right. Before I do, apparently a bunch of people are like texting me to get access. I think they signed up. Not sure. Don't know. Just letting you know. To that regard, in terms of hustling for me, I think it's about planning and executing. I realize that in my conception of hustling, I lose sleep. I try to be as productive as I can be. That includes cutting out days and days of sleep. This is not healthy at all. I'm now realizing that if I am to be productive and work optimally, then I have to figure out sort of how do I sort of do what I need to do, but also take care of myself. So when it comes to my story, I'm going to do the YouTube thing because it was one of the hardest decisions I've made in terms of finding something to do, right? I wanted to have a YouTube channel, but why would I? I thought that I would be ridiculed by my friends. There was a sense that this was sort of reductive in so far as I was going to become this professional. And the social media seemed to be sort of a different ball game, right? What I found out during the pandemic was that I had essentially a lot of free time as a law clerk, and there was no excuse. There was no excuse for me to not engage in activities that I thought would be helpful. So I created a channel that I talked about politics and culture and law, and I just assumed no one would ever care. And over time, people started coming in. And at 1,000 subscriber, I realized people did care. And so I started really investing in it. So again, hustling for me meant that I was one, planning, two, executing, but three, and most importantly, that I was trying my best to give things of value to the community, because essentially, I need to create value. And if I'm not creating value in the things that I'm engaging, then it's hustling insofar as I'm gaining something, but am I giving something of worth, of value? So I would add that to it.
I think that's important too, like that piece of your story that says, I started this and I figured nobody would care, but you started it. Yeah. And I wonder how many of us are sitting on ideas, are sitting on, things that we feel are valuable to us and don't think that other people might also gain value in that same place. Kira, is your audio fixed?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yay! Woo! There we go.
Listen, the team on the background. Big up. If I can jump in, Vanessa. Hustle for me. It is persistence, but it's not necessarily a pace. A certain pace. I think that when I've always heard hustle, I assume that you got to be doing 10 million things at once. And that wasn't going to work for me because I like to sleep. Andrew?
I don't sleep at all.
So for me, it wasn't about moving fast, but it was about moving forward. So hustle, in terms of my story, similar to everyone else. I migrated here in the 90s with my parents. Well, actually, my mother first. And so it was only me and my mom. So in order for us to make it out here, she had to work until my father came. And she worked. And then my dad came and he worked. I remember being home alone at night. You're not supposed to do that. But I remember being young and being home alone. Because it was like she stays home for a few hours by herself or we don't have enough money to pay the bills. And so from there, we moved into a nicer neighborhood, a bigger home, and but the hustle changed. It stopped being so much working late. It became, okay, now our lives have changed. So Kira's going to a nicer school, so she's doing more things and she's more involved. So I think that you hustle at different stages of your life in different ways. So that's what my hustle experience has been.
Yeah.
And what do you think, and for all of you, how has your hustle changed? How has your hustle changed just in the past, let's say 24 months? I know for me, my hustle changed so greatly. I used to have a business actually with Jay, and we cater to small and mid-sized law firms across the country. And we were, always traveling. We were, doing all this stuff. And now I hustle plants. Like, and it doesn't feel, at first I struggled with that, right? I struggled because I was comfortable in that grind and I could see the immediate reward of coins. Right. Now the grind is to help people who can't help themselves. And my reward is changing lives. And it's different. And that definitely was a shift. And it was a difficult shift for me. Have you guys experienced any shift in your hustle? Which one? Anyway.
I would say probably just purpose. The purpose of the hustle. That changed. Like Kira said, it's always going to change different places in your life. So that's probably the last 24 months. Yeah, it's the purpose, the reason behind it, and the goal. So
yeah, the goalpost moves, doesn't it?
All over.
What about you, Andrew?
It's funny because when you ask if I would be involved on the panel, one of the things that I didn't want to coming across is this idea that you need to be productive, 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 productive. And that defines who I am in some ways. I don't think that's healthy, right? An example is I go to bed sometimes at 12, wake up at 4:30 so that I can, like, I'm actually doing and engaging meaningfully in my career, but I'm also trying to maintain this platform that I created. And they run in conflicts a lot of the time, right? And there are things that you cannot plan, right? You just can't. And so that gave me pause. I'm naturally circumspect at the idea that I'm going to be someone promoting like overproductivity. So let me just say that's not what I want to promote. But I do think that there is going to be sacrifice, right?
Mhm.
And for me, hustle means that you are able to conceptualize what these sacrifices are going to be beforehand. And two things I do, and this is very recently, right? The shift is still struggling with it. Priority and balance, right?
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
try to maintain a balance, however skewed it might be. I try to maintain a balance, but I always have at the back, in the background, sort of my priority. What is important? If there is a huge deal going on, I know that I might have to give up lunch or take my lunch and work through lunch, right? If I know that it's lagging, I don't put in time for that. I just go and try to have time with my family and friends and call and reach out to people. Because it's not just about, for me at least, it's not about getting somewhere, because I think that I've accomplished everything I wanted in my life. I can honestly say that at this point.
Awesome.
Hopefully nothing changed. But it wasn't just about getting to where I want to go financially or in terms of status. It was also who I wanted to be and who I wanted to be with and how I wanted to impact people. So hustling for me is understanding where I want to go, but also who I wanted to be when I got there and planning and executing.
Awesome.
I feel like we could talk about that all night. I have a story about balance. I'm going to leave that towards the end, but what a word. All of you had something to say. I wish I could take notes. I'm going to watch the replay though, because I have some things, because that who you want to be piece, that progress piece, y'all. Okay. And we just on topic one. Okay. Can we move past topic one?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it just happens. It just happens like that on our table talks. Okay. So my next topic for you guys is 2020 vision. You like my wordplay? You're like, yeah, okay. How did you grow in 2020 as it relates to your career or side hustle? And I'd like to throw in there your personal development. How did you grow as a person? Because we just learned that those was two things intertwined. And did your growth or what you went through, if you did go through anything, affect your goals at all? And I think we all know, like, for a lot of people, 2020 is like a curse word. 2020 was one of the best years of my life, and not everybody shares that story, but I think it's important to see the glass half full, in that for me, we got everything we'd always been nagging and complaining about. I don't have enough time. I don't see my family enough. I don't spend enough time with my kids. I wish I had time to do X, Y, Z. We got nothing but time, child. We got nothing but a whole bunch of time. And when we got the time, we was looking at our family and friends like, I don't even want to sit next to you no more. But we got time. And I think people came out of it who had that grit and who had that hustle in them. And they were like, yes, this is my time. And they ran with it. So I would just love to see what that experience was for you guys. We could start with Jay.
Did it affect my goals? It made my goals clearer. how did it affect
Well,
me?
first, how did you grow? How do you
How
think
did
you
I grow?
grew?
I was able to put my foot down. Okay, when everyone had time, they decided to try and make my time their time. And I was like, wait a second, no, you. I was like, wait a second, no, I need
It
this
was
time
me.
too.
She put her foot down with me, y'all.
You're not the only one. But yeah, I had to really compartmentalize a lot of stuff and say, oh, I really do need to put my foot down, because I would run ragged thinking about, like he said, he would wake up at 4:30 to be productive. I'm just getting up to use the bathroom. The next thing I'm in notes like, oh, I should do this, or I should do that, or I should no. I just had to really I had to grow by saying no, put your foot down. Remember, I told you Fridays. I don't do nothing on Fridays. What do I do on Mondays, Vanessa? Okay. I'm ask anyone. Mondays, I have my own little thing I do. Fridays, I don't.
She cooks on Mondays, y'all. She cooks.
I meal prep on Mondays. Okay, and it's my little thing
Sweet.
that I do. But yeah, I learned to put my foot down. That was probably the best thing. And I was able to then figure out, who am I? What do I do? Because a lot of people would ask, oh, what do you do? Like people who were really like legit companies, what do you do? I can't say everything because I don't do everything. It's a lot, but it's not everything. So I was able to figure that part out. So with that being said, it affected on making my goals clearer. Okay, what do I really want out of this now? So 2020 was a great year. I networked, met some great people. I was able to open myself up a little bit more socially. So I grew in that way. And even though we were quarantined, it's weird. Um, but yeah, that's overall 2020 in a bucket for me. It was a good year. Sad, many lives lost. I'm sorry about that. Pandemic, got rid of Trump. But things have growth. We all grew as a country, didn't we? I'm just saying.
We did.
So yeah, that's 2020 for me, vision.
Yeah, it sounds like you grew by keeping boundaries. You established boundaries in your life. I didn't like her setting boundaries, y'all.
She did.
It made me uncomfortable. Because, she's my sounding board. So I would be like, hey, why don't we do this? All of a sudden, she was missing. I was literally, and I was salty at the time, but I think that was a personal growth, for her over that time to, you want to be there for everybody, but you don't know when you're going. Hopefully we don't ever get this time again, because on the backbone of a terrible pandemic, but I'm going to use this time and I'm not going to have you distract me from my goals. And I had to respect that.
Yeah, it was
I
hard.
was mad, but I had to respect that.
It was hard declining her calls, and she did not like that, amongst a couple other people.
I didn't know you declined the calls. I just thought you were busy. So now we learned.
I was declining calls.
Look at us telling on herself. Come on, Kira.
All right. 2020 was well, okay, let me put it like this. If expect the unexpected could be an event, a life event, that was what 2020 was for me. Pre-COVID, I was feverishly trying to study for my HR certification, and I was not expecting that literally a month after passing my certification that everything would just turn on its head. So I was trying to leave my job, and I just didn't feel like I had all of the skills or all of the qualifications necessary to position myself in the marketplace. I was going on job interviews, I was getting the calls, but I wasn't solidifying the jobs, and it was very discouraging. So I am a faith-based individual, so I was like, okay, I am gonna get my certification. I'm gonna keep applying to jobs. COVID hit, and that didn't stop my energy, because I just firmly believe that no, there's something that I desire, and I would like more for myself. So I just need to be consistent and keep going, and I will manifest that. And sure enough, in July of 2020, I got the offer for the biotech office company that I'm working for now. So my takeaway really was, when people tell you, to stay ready, you don't really understand that until the world is on its head. You've done everything that you can do, and now it's just the opportunity needing to present itself. I had done everything I needed to do. Everything else was God. Everything else was timing. So February certification, July new job in the middle of a pandemic, and a crazy increase. So it didn't affect my goals the way that listen, I was discouraged, y'all. But timing is everything. And then the irony of it all, I'm working at a company that does COVID tests. So I just want to say the takeaway for me was just expect the unexpected. Stay ready. That I never would have expected 2020 to turn out the way that it did. And so I'm just grateful for that. But I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by stay ready also as it relates to your profession. But that was, if I didn't get my certification, I really don't think that this job would have manifested itself months later. I positioned myself in the market and I got what I wanted.
And that works if you have a job or if you're trying to get new clients in your hustle or you're trying to get new subscribers on your channel. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And you just never know when you're going to have to be ready.
It's true. The opportunity
crazy how you get positioned and you don't know, you think you know, but how little things, like I've looked back on things in my life and been like, yo, these pieces just fit together so beautifully that I could have never dreamed this up for myself. You know, whether you call it manifesting, whether you call it God, you've got to know. But guess what? I promise you, nothing happens if you stand still. Not one thing happens.
Not a thing.
Keep moving. Not a thing. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, 2020 was a good year for me, but one of the sort of deepest depressive sort of moments for me also. I've always had a plan, and I sort of always knew where I would end up, and or believed I knew where I would end up. So right out of law school, I got the coveted clerkship, right? Everyone who goes to law, not everyone, but a lot of people who goes to law school want to get a clerkship, right? Where you work for the judge, you know what's happening behind the scenes, and then every law firm is begging you to come there, right? So I got the clerkship and I just thought I was the man, like I was it, right? I got a clerkship in DC, everything is going great. The firms reaching out, ignore, not good enough, I'm that. Then the pandemic hit. All these firm jobs sort of dried up. And I thought for the first time in my life, this is not like I've failed many times, right? But this was going to be such a tremendous fail that I didn't know if I could, like how I was going to tell my mom that I might have to come back home after going to one of the best law schools in the world, right? Like I froze for the first time. And that sort of ignited something else in me where I just started focusing on the YouTube channel. I treated that like a job. Like I would get up, record the video, edit the video, post it. And then at night, I would start reaching out to all my law school friends, telling them, like, one thing I don't do is I have no shame. I have no shame. So I was reaching out to people and I was telling them like, look, my clerkship is about to end. And they said when we go to the T14, we have connection. So where are these jobs? Like, I mean, because, and everyone told me the same thing, right? That in a pandemic, people aren't litigating, there are things closing down, like you might have to switch things up, right? And so I did. And I decided to go and study and learn about private equity. And that's a firm doing private equity hired me right as my clerkship ended. Like there's a month between when my clerkship ended and then when the job starts. And in the legal market, right, that time frame, you need to be doing something. You cannot push you cannot be unemployed for a long period of time, right? Thankfully, I was not unemployed at all, but it was the middle of a pandemic, and they interviewed me on Skype. Meanwhile, the interview was going on, and I remember telling the people who were following my channel, my YouTube channel, that there would be a video in the next hour. So I did the interview, and in the clothing that I did the interview in, I just flipped on my camera and recorded the video. And then I got the job. But a lot of people said, you should quit YouTube now that you have this amazing job. But I couldn't do that. One, passion. Two, there were people who were deeply invested in this platform. And because I am no longer needed as therapy, I'm not going to just quit. And so I've been trying to manage and figure out how to manage both. But 2020 for me shifted my perspective about sort of like, no matter how much you plan, there will always sort of be a curveball. And how do you address it when it comes up, and what does it mean to sort of maximize your potential and be open and see opportunities when they come along? Because if I didn't pivot from litigation, which by the way, I realized would have killed me if I was to do litigation and my YouTube channel, if I didn't pivot and go into corporate law and private equity specifically, I don't know what would have happened to me. I know I would be unemployed, that for sure, but now I like what I do insofar as the work is interesting, and I was able to sort of like build a better me in 2020 and like figure things out. So
that's amazing. Like, but I wonder when those jobs were coming, right? And you were like, not good enough. Nope, not you. Would any of those been the perfect job for you, or do you feel like this job you're in now is the job for you?
I mean, I don't. I think this is a job for me, right? The people are just amazing. When you think about a big law firm, you usually think about people being cold, and
you start to cry. I know.
They are amazing. Like I don't know how to describe it, but everyone seems really genuine, really nice. Under here, I have like a high top, like I don't have to cut my hair, and I hope no one ever tells me to cut my hair, because then that would be a whole nother problem. But I think that the jobs that came, I don't want to say they weren't perfect, but they weren't. But there was a lot of pride behind why I made the decisions I made. And I would not like to tell anyone to make decisions based on pride, right? Like I was thinking that I was the ish, right? Like I was thinking that I have a clerkship. I went to Georgetown. Like, of course I'm good. Like, why would I not be? But I think you should have standards, but don't predicate those standards on a sense of pride and thinking that you're better than something. It just might not be a good fit. So in my mind, it wasn't a good fit, not that I was better than the jobs that were coming. Because I promise you, for the last 2 months of my clerkship, you know this, Vanessa. I was stressful. I was like, I might have to go home. Like, and my mom is Jamaican, and she's gonna tell me that I need to find 5 jobs. Like that's gonna be like I can figure it out. But she was
the consensus.
She was also there to support. So I must say that I also had a safety net insofar as I had a mom willing to pay for me and pay my way until I was able to get on my feet. Didn't need it, thankfully, but she was willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to have some type of, even if it's not a safety net per se, but a support system in place.
Yeah.
You know, especially during these times, and talk to people about your goals. I tend to keep my goals close to my chest, or call PJ when she's not, ending my calls. So I'm gonna be salty about that one for a while. Okay. I'm petty. Okay. but it's important, and we all went through it, and it seems like, I mean, you guys all three of you came out on the winning side of things, you know, so thank God for that. Let's talk about the things that didn't work, because we've been talking real happy, fluffy stuff, right? Hold on, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Give me 1 second, because I lost my Zoom. Okay. Let me share with you guys. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's talk about what didn't work, because it's not all peaches and cream, Kool-Aid and sugar. I don't know. It's not all, you know, mashed potatoes and gravy. Let's talk about the things that didn't work. What are in your career and the paths you chose outside of your career, your side hustles, your movements? What were your earliest lessons and mistakes, and how were you able to adapt?
So, earliest lesson, you can't be a yes man. Saying yes to everything will have you going crazy. And here's the thing. Vanessa and I have this thing called fake it till you make it. And
you gonna tell them that? Are we going there? Oh.
And I'll elaborate too, because that was the reason why I said yes a lot, was because you gotta fake it till you make it sometimes. Other than just saying yes, what was another mistake? Not doing your due diligence, because you never know when you're going to be tested. You never know when someone like Roger will ask you something, from one of our old clients, ask you something, and we're like, I don't know, and I didn't do the research. So do you due diligence?
Not being prepared.
Not being prepared. So anytime I'm about to talk to somebody, I'm on their Instagram page, I'm on their website, I'm on their LinkedIn, because I need to know something, because doing that one little thing or mentioning something that showed that you did your due diligence is going to help you in the long run. So
you tried to skirt my question. What mistake did you make? Tell me about a time you weren't prepared. And if you ain't got it right now, I'll circle back around to you, but you're not getting out of it.
I really got to think about the time I wasn't.
Oh, you think? She's perfect, y'all. She got to think about it.
Overall, no, but really, overall, there was a lot of times I wasn't prepared. Honestly, there was a lot of times I didn't read through things the way I should have. There's a lot of times where I kind of overcompensated with what I could do. So, it's just, there's not one specific thing. There's a lot of mistakes I've made. Not rereading things, not looking over stuff, not following up, not meeting deadlines. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I just didn't do. And I mean, I still do make some mistakes, but I'm very aware of them now. I've grown. Growth. Grow where you're planted. I grew.
She grew where she was planted in her mistakes, and she came out of it. Let your mistakes be your fertilizer, baby. Correct. Let it get deep down inside of you and provide the nutrients that you need to never do this again.
And that's also with anything in life too. Anytime there's a door closed, I just took it as experience versus a no. Like that no meant something. It was a no for a reason. Like my mom says, oh gosh, I can't believe what Jackie said. What Jackie normally says is, if it ain't for you, then it wasn't for you at all. So I had to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for myself, like, just again, like you were saying, over promising and not being able to deliver. One of the biggest mistakes I made with juggling and talking about, balancing your time, is I would balance the wrong thing. And I'm like the best active procrastinator. Like if there was an award for someone who looks busy but not getting shit done, because I will clean this whole house before I do what I'm actually supposed to be doing, sitting at this computer. You're not going to find me on the couch somewhere. I'm not just going to be lazy procrastinating. I am going to look busy as hell. And then what would happen is life happens, right? And then all that stuff I put on the back burner, I'm not able to do because some fire happened with the kids, and if I would have just done it when I was supposed to do it, that's how I ended up working all weekend last week, y'all. All weekend. But so Kira, talk to us about some mistakes that you made and how you adapted.
Number one mistake. I have several also, but number one is feeling entitled. I left school similar to Andrew. For those of you who don't know my back history, I have 2 master's degrees. And I left school just knowing that I was going to get an HR job out the gate. Let me tell you, my journey from school to getting into HR to where I am now is unique. But my first job out of Howard, out of master's degree after, was in retail. I was your head cashier. And I'm not ashamed to say it because I realized that even in that journey, it was teaching me how to handle people as an HR professional. So ended up getting an HR job, but it was the bottom. HR, just tidbit, HR is not a job when you don't have experience that you're just going to walk in the door and become an HR manager or HR director. It does not work that way. If you do not have experience, you have to start somewhere. I was an HR administrator sitting next to a director, literally her office. I sat in her office right next to her, but it was the most important step in the journey. Not only did I start from the bottom, so there's very few things you can tell me now that I don't know, because I pushed paper, I worked with insurance brokers, I hired folks, I interviewed people, I did onboarding, I did whatever it was, I had to be involved with it. So don't come out of any area feeling like the world owes you something, because the world and universe, whomever, will humble you really fast. So I completely agree with Andrew and his experience. And honestly, because I started at the bottom and worked my way out, it feels even more gratifying to get here, you know, and I'm still climbing the ladder, but it feels good just to be where I am, and I appreciate where I am. The second mistake that I made was watching other people. When I started my HR career, starting at the bottom was very hard for me. So imagine you left school with folks, you know, they went to the School of Business, School of Law, they're doing this, and they get jobs, and they're in it, or they look like they're in it. Social media got people looking like they in it. They're on trips, you know, they're like, oh, I'm taking pictures of my new job, and I am in retail asking people what size shirt they want to wear. So my biggest mistake, my second biggest mistake, was watching everybody else's journey and feeling bad about my own. There's a lot of folks that social media do not, and I know you guys have heard this before, do not let social media make you feel any way about yourself and where you are. Because I did, and I soaked in a lot, and I regret that, because I doubted myself. There was a lot of imposter syndrome happening. There was a lot of things as I was going up. So those are my top 2. Don't go in the world feeling so entitled. And then 2, don't watch other people. Your journey is your own, and every part of your journey is going to aid you in the next step.
Yeah. And I think that's a whole word in and of itself, like to delight in the bottom, because there's something to be learned at each stage, you know,
every stage.
You know, at the beginning, you know, I think when I think about my horrible bosses that I've had, I'm so equipped to deal with, well, now I can appreciate my wonderful boss, but I can also look back at difficult bosses, because when I first started working, this lady was trying to kill me. She was so disrespectful. She yelled at me. She threw things at me. She was the worst. So now she equipped me to deal with everything else. Because I promise you, if you have one bad boss, there's about 10 more out there like them. And you just, you do your best, you keep your best foot forward, you keep your cool, and you learn what there is to learn. And you get to appreciate more things as you go on. Like, I've seen you before. I already know how to deal with you. And you learn how to deal with people.
That's
you know.
true.
What about you, Andrew? Come on, talk to us about mistakes. I know you don't make mistakes. You don't make mistakes. You know.
No, actually, I think that for me, I trust people with my dreams and ambition, and I give too much control to other people and too much say in what I do. I mean, huge part of why I didn't want to start the YouTube and why I didn't start it until I felt safe and isolated was what people were going to say. And so I have a tendency to get, even when I start, like I started with other people, right? I wanted more people to be invested because I wanted to feel like it was okay. Like I was looking for permission to do that which I wanted to do. And I realized, not just with YouTube, but with law and everything else in my life, that I needed to maintain some control, because there were criticisms about my YouTube. There were a lot from people in my inner circle, right? And I realized in that moment that I had to make the decision: am I going to stop this and please them, or am I going to continue this and potentially do something that fulfills me in a way that I never thought possible, right? Like I just thought career. And now I have something else that is a lot of work, but it's fun and I like it. I was not willing to give that up to appease the people around me. And so I learned last year, actually, that it is okay for us to have different perspective on life, for us to have different dreams and aspirations. You don't get to superimpose your insecurities and your faults and whatever you're going through on me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm going to face the consequences of what I do, but I won't not do it because you don't feel like it's a good idea. Good for you, stay there, noted. But I'm going to do me.
Amen, right? I'm going to do me. Let's move on to our next, we have blown through this, but let's move on to our next topic, development. What skills would you recommend people work on while they work on their dreams, or while they are planted maybe in a place that they don't want to be? What skills am I working on while I'm the head cashier, but I want to be the HR director? You know, what skills am I working on when I'm working in customer service, but I really want to have a boutique service and help small businesses? What would you say, Jay?
The first skill that people need to work on is people skills. You need to work on your social skills. I don't care how many times you say you don't like people. There's nothing but people in this world. Okay? Everything you do revolves around people. So work on your people skills, because and try and control your emotions towards things too. Everything doesn't need to be emotional. Vanessa knows I know how to split that up very well. I can be your friend and I can be business, and I'm two different people when it comes to that. So yeah, work on your people skills. That's the first thing. And organizational skills also. Like, organize yourself, because if you just take things on and put it in your head, you're gonna be like SpongeBob in that episode where he couldn't remember his name in the filing cabinet.
I remember that episode.
Fine Dining episode. Everyone, if you haven't watched Fine Dining, we refer to it literally maybe once a month. You know, gotta find the name, people. Gotta find
the name. So organize yourself. People skills. Those two things will get you so far. What else could I think of? You can circle back around to me.
I think learning to speak. I think learning to speak is essential. I cannot tell you how many people. reframe. There are people in spaces that should not be occupying those spaces. But the reason that they're there is because they have a control over language. They will convince you that they're good at what it is that they're doing. But if you parse through what it is that they're saying, you realize they're not saying anything. It took me a long time to get comfortable occupying my space and being me. But I realized in the process of doing that and getting over imposter syndrome too, which Kira talked about earlier, I realized in doing that, that there are a lot of people, mediocre at best, that are, no, they're on this amazing career trajectory because they believe in themselves and they can speak. If I could impart something to my children, I don't have kids yet, or to anyone, it is learn to speak and be confident and comfortable occupying the space that you occupy. Those are fun, like nothing else, no matter how smart you are, no matter how great you are at doing things, you will get used continuously and passed over if you aren't able to stand up for yourself and speak up. So learn to speak and not, Jay said, don't get emotional, check your emotions, because there's a story that I won't tell, but I've seen people be nice, nasty in just amazing ways. And you don't have to I mean, sometimes it's like obviously needed and you should. We have these sort of visceral reaction, and I don't discount that. I think it's important to fully feel your emotions, but I also like when people are able, and you need to be doing this, especially if you're in a corporate setting, be able to communicate what it is that you feel in a way that does not completely burn a bridge, right? Or that does not paint you in a bad light. Something Black, I believe I carry with me a ton of pressure in being sometimes the only Black person in a lot of spaces. And unfortunately, what I do is sort of projected out to the rest. What I do bad, nothing I do good gets projected out to everyone else, right? Like, that's just you. You're an exception, which, no, I'm not. Whatever, I'm not getting into this. But I have to monitor myself a lot because I know that the ways in which I conduct myself in certain settings have implication for the people to come after me, unfortunately. I do think, Jay, checking your emotions is important. So adding to that, speaking up and knowing how to speak well and be comfortable occupying your space.
Correct.
What about you, Karen?
Listen, if Jay and Andrew are not giving us a word tonight,
I told you I'm over here like, can I take notes? Because this is the recipe. If y'all don't walk away from this all tuned in with the whole game plan, this is free game. This is free game. They are giving you the recipe. Now give us some more. Give us a little sprinkle on top.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Andrew said really quickly about occupying a space. All of us here on the panel are minorities. And one of the things that I didn't know was negotiation. That's a skill you need to learn. And I don't just mean negotiating a salary. I am talking about negotiating anything. Okay, you might be negotiating your PTO. You might be negotiating the time that you spend in the office versus the time where you're remote. That is a skill that they didn't teach me nothing about negotiation. But as an HR professional, I have to go to bat all the time for employees. And it is very challenging if you don't know how. So I would say if there's one skill that you need to learn how to negotiate for yourself. And especially if you have to advocate for someone else or others, you got to know how to negotiate. And then finally, in terms of what Jay said, social capital is so important. Every single job I've had was because somebody else told me about it and batted for me. So from Party City, my very first job, all the way up to my current position, it's all been, hey, Kira, I know somebody hiring, and I feel like you're a good fit for this. Me and you running this network, you know this person, connect with them. Magic happens every time. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of us in the Black community, we don't really capitalize on social capital, because I'm telling you, other communities, they are driving each other up the ladder just by, oh, you know my uncle? Oh, you know my cousin?
Facts.
Oh, the CEO of this company. Oh, you can get an internship over there. Oh, we go golfing together. Oh, we go, and we have to build our social capital. I'm not just talking about, oh, say hi on Facebook. Connect with people that you want to be in the same industry with. Okay? A lot of people, you'll be surprised, they want to talk.
I mean,
they want to share
information. By the way, to that note, actually, I'm drinking a Wealth Tea by Kristen. She has an amazing tea. Just promoting. I saw her in here and I was like, oh, I'm actually drinking. Well, the pot is done, but I'm drinking your tea. Anyway, I haven't started this because I don't have the time, but along with networking is this idea of mentorship. Right. And I know for a lot of people, they kind of, oh, this is my mentor. No. That's not how you get mentor. Like, you find where you want to go and you facilitate relationships with people who are in places that you want to be in. And I did not realize that there were so many people who were sort of unaware of, like, I didn't know this, that it was like a behind the curtains realization that having mentors in law before I went to law school was like really important to me, right? How do I get to law school? How do I do well in law school? How do I do well in college? Masters, how do I... Like, all of that, I had people around me. My mom facilitated like meetings and introductions so that I had access to these people. And I didn't realize that was not sort of readily available. I didn't know this was not something that everyone did until like really late in my life, like law school late in my life. So just wanted to underscore that. I haven't started the channel yet, but I'm planning to, where I just sort of give advice on like everything I know, because we had to pay for it, right? But why not give it away for free?
And like, Kira and I talked about social capital the other day. I didn't even know that was the term for it, but it's perfect because I didn't realize that was something I naturally did. I communicated with people, but in the back of my head, I kind of had a game plan, like, oh, you do that? I'd like to learn from you, not realizing that you can potentially become a client or potentially work together or anything. So, and that comes back from customer service. I build rapport with people. There were people who were just literally on the phone with me because I was helping them fix their Mac, but yet they're like, oh my God, you've been so helpful, this, that, and the other. Remember that couple in Annapolis, Maryland, Vanessa? They told me,
I'm so tired about it here about this couple. These people love this girl to death. At this point, she don't even work there anymore.
Exactly. I became pen pals with somebody an older lady who just needed help with this and that. And I just realized just the natural rapport that I build with people helped me in so many different ways. And I decided to apply that to my social circle and see, okay, this and that. I have a friend who's a Jill of all trades, Bleen, shout out to you. And I pull her in, hey, you can do this, do that. Social capital. Like, I love that whole term, social capital.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If I could add anything to the conversation, it'd be from Guido, my mother. That's what I call her. She's like a original OG. She's worked in corporate America for 44 years. She retired as the senior vice president of Bank of America. And as an immigrant person coming up through the corporate ladder as a Black woman, when there was dominated by men, she has always instilled in me that no matter what job you're doing, if you're in the drive-thru, if you're a cashier, you're a customer service rep, show up ready to be indispensable, learn everybody's job around you, and just show up with a smile on your face, ready to work, ready to learn, with a grateful attitude. And if you don't feel it, fake it till you make it. because you're not doing it for the job. Okay, this job don't care about you. Okay, you're not doing it for the job. You're not doing it for your boss. You're doing it for practice. Because if you can show up to the job that you hate, okay, that builds certain skills in you that'll make you show up when things are harder down the line. It'll make it easy for you to show up when things aren't perfect down the line. And the next thing is, I would say, is there has been many times in my life where someone who treated me like crap in a job, and, you know, and I wasn't disrespectful, I wasn't rude. At my next job, I was the boss and they were coming in for an interview. Tables turn and things change all the time. You want to make sure that you're not burning bridges unless you're moving to Alaska and you for certain. And I still would be like, well, they might move to Alaska too.
You never know.
Be careful the way you treat people. Go above and beyond. The job I have now, at the salary that I'm at now, is because of a connection that I made over a decade ago. You know what I'm saying? You've got to check in on people. You got to build your network. You got to show up and give 100% every day.
Social capital.
We ready to move on to the next question?
Yes.
All right. So the next question is, oh, wait, hold on. There we go. The next question is a will and a way. Let's talk about innovative ways to hustle. How have you made a way when there was no way? And for this part, I'd like to talk to you guys more about the things that you do outside of your job. You know, we have a lot of people here who have certain passions that they'd like to monetize, or hustles that they want to do, or give back in a way. And I consider that a hustle, because my hustle doesn't in fact make me an income, but it's still a hustle to me, you know. But things cost money and things cost time that we don't have. I heard that Andrew was saying he looked at his schedule and said, well, if I want to do both, then I've got to wake up a little bit earlier, whatever. Talk to me about the innovative ways that you have found to fit your passion in around your, you know, around the things that you do to pay your bills. Let's start with Kira this time.
Yeah, somebody else go first.
You're welcome, Jay. I'm letting you off.
How I made a way. So Dialect Apparel is my baby. It hasn't even been a full year. And that is a apparel company that I'm working on right now that caters to the West Indian dialect. So I have shirts, and I hope to have hats and different things in the future. But one thing that I actually learned about making a way, I don't believe that my life will be at a 9-to-5 job forever. I love human resources, and I love helping people. I love helping small businesses with their HR things. But one of the takeaways for me was I do not have to quit my job to do this thing. So what am I saying? I still need benefits, okay? I still want some contribution to my 401k, okay? I still want things that I can't do if I step outside in a full entrepreneurship role. So I said, I'm going to do dialect, and the funds that are coming in, whatever extra money that's coming in is going to dialect. If it means that I'm not eating lunch for the month of February because I want to now talk to a printer, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to readjust my income as it stands to fund this thing. The second takeaway is that basically what Andrew said. I am not scared to ask anything. I really, there are very few things, and I think HR kind of opened me up to people, and I realized that I don't know everything. So how can I help myself in a down moment is ask even just a simple question. I really had no idea about tax IDs, about taxes that you need to pay. You have a whole business. Do not let people fool you and think that, oh, you got a business name and you get in some money and you're official. You're not. There's steps to this thing. You owe the government money, okay? There are things you are doing. Please, it's one thing if you start in baby steps, but you work your way up and you realize that it's not easy being an entrepreneur. It's not. Don't let anybody fool you. So if you can manage doing both for a little while until you get to the place where you can let go of the 9 to 5, do it, baby. Do both. And figure out how this thing is going to fund this thing and learn what you can. I have 2 CEOs and they're both serial entrepreneurs. Successful companies, $1 million company, $1 million. I've only been there a few months, but what I do is I make sure I stay in touch. When they're out of the office, I'm sending an email. Hey, what's going on? They tell me little things about how they got to where they are. Don't be in the room with people and be afraid to ask questions. Don't do that. Do not do that to yourself. You are missing out on life gems, okay? So don't be afraid to ask. Keep your 9 to 5 if you need to.
Echoing all of that, really. One caveat, and it's not a caveat because I think Kara was the one who said, don't feel entitled. If people aren't giving information, you are not entitled to that information, and it is okay. It's completely okay. Now, everything I said previously still stays true now, and I don't want anyone to overwork themselves, but having a mom who is Jamaican means that I have learned not to quit anything. There's never, like, you're going to have to fire me at some point because I'm not going to quit, right? And that's the problem. Like, don't take that advice. So I looked at my schedule, and we're talking about making a way out of no way, right? Mine was not financial. I looked at my schedule and it seemed I was going to work from 9 a.m. at my actual job, right? From 9 a.m. to like 11, 12-ish, right? But I still wanted to make the YouTube. So I realized that I am going to have to wake up at 4:30. And that's what I did, right? Now, I'm not telling, like, this is not advice to go out there and like, work yourself into the ground. Don't do that. But I know that you can, right? Like, I know that you can figure it out. And so for me, what my figuring it out was, I am not going to sacrifice my sleep. So how am I going to be able to go to bed, wake up at 4 o'clock, at 4:30, do what I need to do personally, YouTube, and then go into my career? I needed to figure that out. I also needed to figure out promotion. I know nothing about marketing online, right? I had to learn all of that, all the mistakes. I didn't know what to do. And then when I just started, having 0 subscribers mean that I was talking to myself. I was speaking in a void and no one was listening or speaking back, right? And that was kind of daunting, right? Like, here I am waking up every day, doing something, and feeling like there was no progress. I forgot which one of you said it, but when you did something, there was compensation right away, right? Like you felt like you were doing something. For me, there was no compensation and there was no audience, and it was eating up a lot of my time. But I also believe that it could be something. It was a small fire in me somewhere, and I felt it like it was dying, right? But it was there. I needed to. I was literally gonna say I had to water it, but it's fire. Why would you water? Anyhow,
it's okay. I'll do the gardening pun. You stick to
I had to figure out that, like, I am going to do this. So I made that, right? So I make the decision quickly and I stuck to it, but I also realized that I was not going to bend to the will of everyone else around me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to stay true to what I want to talk about. Even if no one listens, this is what I'm going to talk about. And if I fail, then I will regroup and figure it out later. But I knew this was for fun. I had a job, so don't quit your job. So I knew I was financially secure enough to do whatever I wanted to do, and it was fine. My way out of no way was like literally being regimented. Like I had to like create a schedule and stick to it, knowing that if issues pop up, I would be able to like be flexible in the moment. Again, priorities. But I just kept to a schedule. That's how I got over my issues when it comes to time constraint.
So both of you, that's what I had to do, put it together. I needed a job and I needed to figure out my time. And, you know, working with Vanessa at the company back in 2017, I was so used to just working, you know, just that way. But, you know, we did what we wanted. We made our own schedule. But then, of course, when that had stopped, it's like, okay. And I decided to start doing it on my own. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I said to myself, okay, I need to get a job. I need to get a regular paycheck. Vanessa can attest to that. I said, I need to get a regular paycheck because I still want to do this, but I need money. But then I said to myself, you know what? Get something that you can be really flexible. And that's how I got that job at Google. And they said, you can work any time of day. I was like, oh, perfect. Because now I said I can make the time for the business because I really want to do this. So I said, okay, I'll work from Google from 5:40 up until today. Today was the day I actually turned off that alarm because every day I was getting an alarm for 5:40 because I wanted to start working at 6. And I even wrote it down and said, okay, in order for me to fit everything, I need to literally plan my day by the hour. So as far it goes back to organizational skills. If you want to be innovative, you have to organize yourself. You have to make time for what you really want to do. And if you know you're not going to be stuck at this 9-to-5 job forever, and you know you want to have, you need to make time for it. And not saying and make time for it and still be able to sleep, Andrew. Still be able to sleep and at least give yourself a good no. You know, I don't need a lot of sleep either, but I know I'm good with 5 hours. So if you know, don't force yourself to the 8 hours. Not everybody sleeps 8 hours. It's just not everybody sleeps 8 hours. But so you tell yourself, okay, be honest. I only sleep comfortably for 5 hours. So plan to wake up and plan to go to sleep to at least get 5-6 hours in the middle. What else could be innovative? I'm thinking. I've been thinking this whole entire time because you guys.
You know what I was thinking about as it says that all of this boils down to how bad do you want it? Because you're not going to do any of this if you're not connecting with your why. And we spoke about that last night in the class. But if your why isn't great enough to get you up at 4 a.m., to keep you working past, and maybe, you know, sometimes I make dinner for breakfast so that I don't have to get up from my desk. You know, sometimes that means, you know, if it's a money thing, sometimes it means, like Kira said, packing her lunch. I hope you really do eat lunch too. Like, I was like, ooh, Kira diet plan. Got to try that one. But, you know, you're not going to show up for something that, you know, they say your heart is where your treasure lies. If you can see how much a person cares about things, but where they spend their time and where they spend their money, if you're not willing to sacrifice, then you have to sit back, and it's not a bad thing. Sit back and say, how bad do I really want this? Or do I really want this right now? Not to get rid of your entire plan, but maybe it's not best suited for you and where you are in your life right now. You know, some of us have kids and family, and maybe right now, just right now, I need to put that on the back burner. Or maybe right now, if I want it that bad, maybe I need to find a job like Jay's who's going to allow me a flexible schedule. My job stands behind what I do 100%, you know, so they will allow me to step out, like, you know, and do things that I do, because you got to talk to your job about the things that you're doing. You know, a lot of times jobs want to support you and support your efforts. And if you know that, you know, as long as you're prioritized, but that's where that time balance comes in, that, all right, sorry, I can't go out with y'all every weekend because the weekend's all I have to plant my social content and create these panels and these classes. And you may call me boring, and you may not be my friend at the end of this. So you may have to sacrifice relationships. Not everybody who start with you is going to finish with you.
Also,
So these are all sacrifices that we all have to really take stock and be like, how bad do I want this?
Also,
You know,
the thing with back burner, everyone, the thing with the back burner, please remember it's still on the stovetop. So if you're going to put anything on the back burner, remember it's on the stovetop. This has nothing to do with just business. This is school, this is health, this is family, everything. If it's on the back burner, it's still on the stovetop. So, attend to it. Don't think, oh, you put it on the back burner and forget about it. No, still figure out a way. You want it that bad enough, figure out that way to go to that back burner. I personally like that.
Definitely. All right, so we're going to move on. This is going to be our last question because we're running really late on time, and we have 4 questions in the queue. So, all right. So, not time yet. I'm going to give you each a second to talk about, what tips and tricks that you guys would have for people, whether it be they want to, let me share. Where is my screen? That's the problem with having too many screens. You lose your Zoom. All right. So, okay, spilling the tea time. We chose you guys as panelists because I love what you do. I feel like you are an authority in your space and you have done it well. So just take a moment to talk to our audience to say, what tips and tricks would you have?
You're muted.
Your audio went out. She can't hear. One moment, you guys.
You're having a Kira moment.
You're good?
Okay, while she does that, I will be singing.
Brief intermission. Start singing. Your audio
It's
still.
the silence for me.
It's the silence for me too.
What tips and tricks and advice do you give to those struggling with making a motivation?
There you go. So go ahead, each one of you talk to the audience because we picked you because, you're authorities in what you do and you've done it well and you make it look good. And, give us some tips and tricks and general advice on how you would, things you would give to people struggling to make a plan or struggling to begin to grow where they're planted in their career or starting that business or starting that hustle.
So right off the bat, I spoke with someone earlier and it came to me and I'm going to share it with you guys. He was struggling to, not motivation, but making a plan. And I said, look for a need or create a want. So when it comes to business, look, if you want to start a business, look, what do people need? What do you see out there? And if not, create a want. He said that he was on South Beach eating lunch outside, and somebody came up to him with the iguana, put the iguana on his shoulder, took a picture, and charged him money for it. And I said, you didn't need that picture. But guess what? You now wanted it because it was you with an iguana on South Beach in Miami. And he said that person told him sometimes he makes $500 a day. So it's true. Look for a need or create a want.
That iguana on my list.
What happened? Again, iguana?
I mean, I think so often we think about how to contribute to the commons, right? How to contribute to the world. How do we engage? How do we provide value? And I think we think of that as some sort of like, earth-shattering revelation about ourselves and what we can and can't do. I think it takes small steps, right? Like, what are you passionate about? Find that which you're passionate about, engage with it in a way that makes you feel good, right? That makes you feel like you're doing something that fulfills who you are. That's the first thing. And then figure out how you can impact other people with that. One person becomes two people become 3. And I think that's how you snowball into something meaningful. meaningful. In terms of entrepreneurship, I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't consider myself in that light. And it's not because I don't have a business. I think YouTube can become a business. But when it comes to making money, I think there is this fear that as soon as money becomes involved in an endeavor, that it's somehow tainted, right? And I think our community, the Black community specifically, has this sort of really bad relationship with money where, again, people don't trust people making money from doing what they're doing. And we even talk about, like, I see someone with a business, I'm going to buy something from that business. I'm not going to ask for them to like give me something to hold or whatever, a discount. I'm going to do full price because I believe in that which other people are doing. So I think there is a general sort of community standard that we need to figure out. But on a personal level, I think fundamentally it is about, Simon Sinek said, start with why. Why you want to engage in that which you're planning to engage in. And it should not just be to make money, right? Like you will burn out quickly if the only reason you're engaging in behaviors is to make money. Like it just doesn't work. But there is no problem in making money from that which you're passionate about doing.
Absolutely.
Secondary to that, passion does not always pay the bill. And so it's a reality that we do have to engage in this capitalistic society in a way where we sell our labor in order to provide for ourselves and our family. And it's okay. Just don't give up on the dream that you have, even when no one is paying attention to you, even when it seems like no one cares. Keep going. That's all I can say. Also, last thing, hopefully Vanessa can provide the email I provided her. If you have any questions specifically about school and how to engage in like getting good grades and how to go about networking with people you don't know and all of that, please email me that. If you have other questions, I mean, sure, but I'm going to try to focus on helping people who are actually trying to meaningfully develop their lives. This is not about entrepreneurship. For me, it's about connecting with people and helping as much as I can. Oh, also I will not be selling anything, just FYI. And
so how I stay motivated, that's tough because one of the hardest things I struggle with is staying motivated. I think that if I sit here and say to you that I wake up every day with rainbows and roses in my eyes, I would be lying. So one way that I stay motivated is honestly just kind of practicing mindfulness. Taking a moment to just kind of remind myself where I am and to really absorb that, because we are rushing through life. Like I cannot tell you, I'm like, I am 32 years old. How did I get here? But just taking a moment, because I am a planner. So I feel like everything needs to be planned and I forget to just take a moment. So mindfulness, and also genuinely writing down my list and checking off what I've accomplished. When I see that, just checking it off makes me feel good inside. Like, oh, you got the laundry to do? Yes, it's done. You know, really celebrate those, what some might consider small wins, but you did something. You know, for me, when it comes to not motivation, the other what was the other question about struggle?
Making a plan.
Yeah, making a plan. Go ahead.
To kind of go off of what Andrew said, many of my paying gigs came off of my non-paying gigs. I have volunteered I have spoken at churches. I have done little HR resume seminars for free. And I think that what Andrew said is crucial. You know, I know what my purpose is. Like, I know I am the Black woman in HR trying to school my people about HR and the world of work. Okay. Now, how can I do this without the burden of trying to make money? I do it. Somebody called me. You want me to come out to a high school and talk about interviewing etiquette? You want me to call me, and I'm going to do it. And from every, I don't want to say every, but 80% of the time, there's somebody in that room that wants to pay me for a service. So for me, I'm not doing things because I need to make money because my life is just so. No, that's what my 9 to 5 is for. I pay my bills. Anything added is great. But for me, it is literally volunteering my time, and I have been taken care of in other ways just by doing things for free. I'm not saying that's your testimony, but it helped me because I understood that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help, you know, teens and young adults get into the workspace and succeed, you know. So for me, I just want to help. So because of that, I was able to monetize, you know, some things. But I do just want to help folks. Let me put a disclaimer. I don't want to help folks who don't want to be helped. I have been in situations where people have called on me and I've given them the information and they didn't want to receive that. Then okay. Then we just don't leave it at that. But I am always here, the same as Andrew. I am here to answer HR things. You got a question, something happened, workers' compensation, you need to have a conversation with someone, I'm here. But I'm also not an employment lawyer. I'm not a labor lawyer. I'm giving you an HR perspective before you decide to go to Andrew.
I cannot give legal advice outside of my firm. So that's it. That struggling, we all struggle, and it's okay to struggle. And I think that transparency and authenticity, be true with yourself. Like, I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling mentally. I'm struggling. You figure out what works for you. If you got to draw, if you got to color in a book to get you into a space where you can do whatever you need to do, y'all. This is 2021. All of this holding stuff in and not talking to folks and you don't do that. We're beyond that. Call somebody. I realize I didn't know this, but like a lot of people's like self-esteem is predicated on what they have and what they've attained and the idea that people see them as successful. And
yeah.
when your self-esteem is predicated on ideas like that, it's very difficult to actually deal with problem and become successful because you're unwilling to let other people in and let them know that you need help. And we all need help. Like it's a fact of life. Like we all need help. Don't broadcast it on like social media, but yeah.
And to speak on the motivation thing, also, another thing to keep you motivated is when you do something, just do it to the fullest extent the way you need to do it, even if you don't get paid for it. Because let me tell you, you keep putting your best foot forward, the money's going to come regardless. Okay?
The money comes?
The money's going to come. Where the money resides, it will reside in your bank account.
Where the money resides.
It will reside in your bank account if you just keep putting your best foot forward. Because even if you do something for someone, or even if you just do something for someone, create a product or whatever, and they, still don't give you what you need, the respect or the coins or whatever, you never know who's looking. You never know who else saw it and said, oh my God, that looks nice. Or who did that for you, this and that. Because like I said, the money will come. The money will come.
My friends just texted me that you guys are preaching. Like, here for it.
Yeah.
Pass around the collection plate. No, I'm joking. Okay. But to add on to that, I want to throw a wrench into. I agree with what you guys are saying. Absolutely, especially a part about. I wrote notes here.
She really took notes.
But the, I'm going to throw a wrench in it, and I'm going to say stop relying on motivation to get you to your goals. Motivation is fickle.
It is.
Rely on discipline. Build discipline. Motivation will get you up Monday and Tuesday, and by Wednesday, you'll be burnt out and you won't be motivated to do nothing.
Because you're
And
sitting there looking for
then
it.
you'll be looking, exactly, you'll be looking 3 to 6 months down. Look at the beginning of the year when the gyms is full and all the, they was motivated, boy. They was ready. It's the people who make it to the end of the year and have lost all the weight and reached their goals. Motivation didn't take them there. Motivation came after discipline. But sometimes people are waiting for it to come before discipline. It might be the spark, but it's not what's going to keep the fire going, you know, and it's going to go in and out and in and out. So you've got to build while you're motivated. It's a great time to start disciplining yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Say to yourself, no matter how I feel this morning, I'm going to get up because my why is bigger than my sleep.
Yeah, that
My
purpose
why
right
is bigger
there.
than my now. My why is bigger than my current circumstances. And I want to sleep, but if I keep sleeping, I'm going to sleep my way into 2022 and be in the same situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all have a profound way of talking ourselves in and out of anything. I know that when my alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., I'd be like, okay, but you don't really have to get up though. Like
You
can
trying to justify it too?
if I can convince myself at 5 a.m. something, you know, something that simple that's gonna keep me from my goals, then you gotta know that you on big things can talk yourself in and out of things. So I would say motivation is great.
The
Gonna continue to grow.
the existence of human beings is in search of pleasure and rejection of pain. The reality is that you either have the pain of regret or the pain of discipline. So like when you just said that, that was like literally echoing through a bunch of the books that I've read, where like you literally will feel pain. It's just, will you feel it now and be grateful later, or will you feel it later and regret what you did? I mean, those are really your choices. Like, I mean, that is what it is. So yeah.
That is a whole word right there. Ask yourself the next time you don't want to get started, or you have this dream, or you're waiting for validation, or you're waiting for something that's stopping you, you know, do I want to feel the pain of, you know, the workout, or do I want to feel the pain of not getting sleep because I'm working on my website or I'm working on these products? Or do I want to look back at this time and say, damn, I should have just stuck with it? You know, and actually this leads us to our next section, which is our Q&A. And that was the first question that we got, was how do you self-motivate? So we answered that. So look at us making up for lost. Our next question is, how do you balance your career, your 9 to 5 hustle, with your creative side and hustle? And I think that we touched on this for a little bit in what we were talking about, but if we could just quickly recap, I don't know who wants to take the question. How do you balance your 9 to 5 hustle? I would just like to take this second to share my balance story. I work with a life coach, and I don't think we talked about mentors, but also it's so important for you to have coaches in your life as well. But she, you know, that was one of the things that her and I were working on, was balance. And what I said to her was, you know, I just feel like, you know, I'm a mom, I have my job, I have 8 side hustles, I have my, you know, aspirations in the community. How do I balance everything? And she told me a story about a woman who had asked someone else that, and the person said to her, you don't. And even, you know, even when you are balanced, say you're on a seesaw, or you're balancing on your hands, you never balance forever. Balance is not something that is attainable for very long periods of time. I think we have to give ourselves some grace that some days things may balance and some days they just won't. And what she told me was, if you have all the plates spinning, I was so in my head about keeping all the plates spinning. She said, no, you just have to figure out which balls you can drop that will bounce and which balls you can drop that will break.
Just do.
Maybe today, all juggling all the balls in the air, maybe for my job, I have an important deadline and I can't afford to drop that ball. But maybe the next day I'm caught up on work, but it's my children's rehearsal. And that will cause negative effects if I drop that ball. You've got to assess, and I do that at the beginning every day, what ball can I drop today? Because it's going to happen. So that's my quick little balance story. Give yourself some grace. Balance isn't forever. What do you have anything to add to that?
I agree. Sometimes, no, I do agree. Sometimes balance will just come naturally too. Sometimes you just do. If you know what you want to do it. The balance will make its way. Like you said, if you say you want to go to the gym, you want to work on your business, and you have to work. If you just make the time, organization, it goes back to that. Once you organize that and you do that, the discipline, like you said, balance will naturally come, honestly. So the only thing I think when it comes to the balance where it gets a little iffy is not necessarily the creative side or the hustle, it's the personal. I think that's the part where a lot of people struggle, is to get that personal part in. Because hi Carl, you have to make time for your personal stuff. But either ways, I agree completely.
Give up first, right? When we talk about balance, we let our relationships fall down. We let we always cut from the personal. We never cut because we feel like we can't afford to. We put too much into it. Andrew or Kira, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope. I'm echoing the unsustainability of balance. The nature of balance is unsustainable. That is beautiful.
Yes. I think the other thing I wanted to everything that you guys have said is true. I think the other thing about balance is my mental capacity. So one of the things that I did was start going to therapy. And one of the reasons why I was so imbalanced was that very thing that you said, the perception of that juggling. Why do you feel like all of these things must be done? And honestly, some of it is, okay, Kira, you're trying to be a perfectionist. Why do you feel like you have to? We got some cultural things happening. We got some other things going on, but really just actually delving into oneself to find out why am I struggling here? Why am I struggling in this area? Why can't I find this balance? Some of us are chasing things that we don't have no business even chasing. And there's a couple of things. There are women and men we're chasing. There are jobs, and so there's things that we have to take accountability for. And I think that one of the things that really helped me was therapy. Like Kira, these areas or things about you need to be healed, and then your perspective about balance will even change. So I just want to throw that in there. If you need a therapist, I know a good one. But it's important now. Mental health.
All for mental health.
You need networks.
Your audio.
Okay, awesome. Our next question is on the topic of speaking well. Is there a book you would recommend for an individual who would like to learn to speak well? I'm going to expand on that question and say, is there something outside of a book, a resource, a page you follow? How would you increase that skill?
So this is going to sound really silly, but I promise you it's not. Record yourself. Read a lot. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, read a lot and write down words, not just big words, right? But phrasing of how authors think about prose that you like. Oh, James Baldwin, right? He writes some of the best prose, right? I read him a lot, not this book because it's new and I haven't opened it. But I read a lot of what people talk about, right? I had an accent, I have an accent. And so I was very particular about the way that I talk because I knew communication was imperative, right? So I write words down, I write phrases down, and I record myself. I hate hearing the sound of my own voice. I think most people do. But record yourself, listen to it, and just keep doing that, right? It's an exercise. And even if you don't know why or how, just keep doing it and you will start developing, one, your vocabulary through reading, two, listen to people on YouTube or whatever medium you have where you can, that you like the way that they sound, but don't listen for the texture and tone of their voice because that's not something you can emulate, right? Or a lot of people can, you shouldn't, right? You have your own individuality. But think about how they phrase things, how they communicate, what they do, what they say, and try to emulate a lot of that because, I mean, I think that communication is like fundamentally important. And the better you are at it, the less, don't do this, but the less you have to be good at everything. But I mean, be holistic. Don't just have the process, obviously have substance, but again, read more, write things down and take notes when you read, record yourself speaking. I got into poetry a long time ago. Do that if you want, but that's a longer process. But short process, read, take notes, build your vocabulary, record yourself. I'm not going to recommend a book because I'm trying to divest from the self-help industry. I find it to be very sort of, it's all consuming. So I wouldn't, I mean, self-help, help yourself, but yeah.
It's just exposing yourself to books, right? Like exposing yourself. And I also put that you should try out your Toastmasters, your local Toastmasters for practice. I've dropped that in the chat box. What were you saying here?
Oh, I was just going to say, even at the professional level, I run things by my friends. If I have a presentation or a training, I will get them all together in a Zoom. Give me 30 minutes, 45 minutes of your time. I'm about to run through this presentation and you let me know. Did I say too much? Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about? Was I clear? Did I talk too fast? I really have been able to tap into my friends as it relates to communicating and talking, because for the most part, your friends will tell you the truth. Your friends are gonna be like, "Nah, sis, I didn't understand." You know, nobody's gonna play with you or mess around with you and pretend, especially when they know it's a serious matter. So I would say that the things that I've done that was free and quick, gather some of your friends and go ahead and just get to talking in front of them and see what they say and take that feedback and learn from it and receive it and go again and call them back a week later and say, let's do it again in a week.
One more thing, by the way, I don't know the audience racial makeup, right? But I do know as Black people, we have to code switch a lot. And it is imperative that you master that skill, because even if we don't want to conform, and I don't advocate conformity to whatever, but a lot of people will pass you over just based on the way that you talk. So that,
yep.
Be careful. Simple trick, have a thesis, have a conclusion, make sure that the causal connection between the thesis and the conclusion makes sense. Like just on a basic communication level, do that.
Yeah. And you know what Kira was saying, and I'm drawing a blank now because I think I'm like done for the day.
Yeah.
But no, what I do, and I find myself doing more and more public speaking through my testimonies that I give in different legislative and in front of decision makers, is I practice. I write it out and I call Jay and I'd be like, I got to run this back with you. And I do it over and over and over again because that first practice, I don't even know the information. And when
especially when you're public speaking. One, I think that if you're passionate about something, you're just going to be able to speak on it. You know, some things I
Yes.
practice for, and some it depends on the tone. If I want to be more authentic, I'll write down bullet points, but I won't go word for word. If I'm timed like I was earlier today when I testified, you know, I'm going to go word for word on that. And I'm going to practice first for speed and second for inflection and tone. You know, so you want to make sure that you know your setting, you know your audience, who you're going to be speaking to, because I'm not going to speak to Congress people the way that I'm speaking to you all. You're not going to connect with what I'm saying. One thing to speak, and it's one thing to connect with your audience. So I think that's really important too. Anything else to add to that, you guys? I
Nope.
think we're done with our questions. And it's been amazing talking to you guys. We went a whole half hour earlier. That's because we didn't have a moderator. See, if I had a moderator, they'd be like, wrap it up. But I didn't want to stop because I really feel like our audience was getting, you know, a lot of information that's really going to help them take everything to the next step. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. You guys were awesome. And for everybody else, I dropped their information into the chat box. And just as a reminder, we're back here again next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. But we're going to talk about healing. And that's going to
Yeah.
be, grab your tissue, grab all your angry stuff. You might need a stress ball. You might need to get that therapist that Kira was talking about. You might need hard liquor. Tea won't do it. We're going to talk about healing, and that is our last panel of the month. Also next week, last night's class was amazing, and we're doing it again next week, Wednesday at 7. We're talking about starting your spring and summer seeds. I know we were talking about business, and we have a lot of business people here, but if you're thinking about growing anything this season, I can help. Come on, join the class, and
Really
let's
great
get
last night.
growing in every aspect of our lives. Okay, so thank you guys so much. You guys were amazing.
Thank
I
you.
love y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. This is 3H Table Talk. Grow where you're planted, Hustle Edition. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.